Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm playing Torpedo chess, where pawns can always move either 1 or 2 squares forward. My goal is to win 3 games, and I will only play against higher rated opponents. Let's get started with game number 1. Alright, game number 1, we're paired with an 1860 rated opponent, higher than us, but not by a huge margin, so we should be in for a close game. We get pawn to d5, we'll play bishop to f4. And frankly, the only big difference that I see in this variant as far as my playstyle goes is that it will be easier to launch faster attacks. For example, this h-pawn is only 2 moves away instead of the usual 3. We'll play bishop d3 to challenge the bishop on f5. Okay, the opponent trades it off. We'll take back with the queen. We do get pawn to h6, presumably setting up pawn to g5, but then we just have bishop back, and even with a double pawn move, oh, they have bishop to, or rather pawn to h4. That's very interesting, right? And if pawn to g5, bishop to e5, f6 forces me back anyways, and then there's pawn to h4, so I pretty much have to play h3 in order to give my bishop an escape square. We'll play pawn to c3 to defend the center. The opponent is doing very well on time, over 3 minutes. They've actually gained time since we started playing. Because this is 3-2, you get 2 seconds back for every move that you make. So if you play under 2 seconds for every move, you could in theory gain time. We get pawn to c4, pushes the queen back, fair enough. We do have this nice center break though. We get queen to g5, targets g2. I'm trying to think if it's worth giving up the pawn, and I think it is. Pretty sure I can just castle queenside. Should the queen take, there's rook to g1, and that queen is toast on g2. The opponent probably won't take, in which case, I guess we have ideas of a center break. f4 is a possibility. We get pawn to f6. I guess we should just ask that queen where exactly she intends to move. We always have this escape square on h2. She moves back to g6. I guess pawn to h5 is really interesting as well, right? Because it holds up the opponent's kingside position. It attacks these weakened light squares, and it forces the queen even further back, which means now we can actually break open the center, which is where the enemy king is, considering they haven't really developed their pieces. So we should be looking for an attack in the middle. We're castled. We're pretty much ready to mobilize the entire army. Go ahead and take back. Knight to d6 is a very real threat. Well, I don't know if it's a threat. It's a possibility, though, and one that I'm quite liking. I'm going to go ahead and play check. Should the opponent take, I simply take back. Now we have a bishop controlling all of these dark squares. We get knight to e7. Oh, that's pretty darn good, actually. It cuts off the bishop, and now the opponent is looking at castling. Okay, we'll meet fire with fire. Let's try to line up against that e6 pawn. If we do have to enter an endgame, I would at least like to have an extra pawn for my troubles. We are also still down on time, but not as much anymore. Whoa, king to d7, the move of the century. The king is now probably the only attacking piece, threatening the bishop on d6. Bishop to a3 and bishop to g3 are probably the main moves here. I'm leaning towards bishop to a3. I don't love that a5, b5 is a possibility, and I think I'm about to pay for it in just a moment, but I don't know. Yeah, that's a pretty annoying move. Yeah, maybe I should have just traded off the bishop when I had the chance, since the king was in the middle of the board. But okay, we'll play g3, and it's a slow plan, but I want f4, and then I want f5 to try to destabilize this knight, because this knight is on a light square. I have a dark squared bishop, and I'm not just now realizing that I've permitted them to move into a very, very comfortable outpost, which I simply cannot permit to exist. It does 2 things. It closes off the center, which means the attack is pretty much toast. It also places the knight in a very nice spot in the middle of the board. Okay, we do get pawn to f5, trying to hold on to the knight in that position, and successfully, might I add. We'll play queen to e5, try to penetrate the position. Rook to c6, probably the best response, covering that square altogether. And I'm not really sure how we continue this attack. I mean, pawn to g5 is a possibility, but then en passant is also a possibility. Let's go rook to f1, and then maybe g4, maybe g5. Probably g4. I want to try to open up the position. Okay, queen to f6. Of course, the opponent wants to trade, considering their king is in the middle of the board. And of course, I have no interest in that, so I'm just going to move my queen back to e2. Bishop to c5 is also something I should have on my radar, right? Because the opponent is going to go for this kingside break, and I want to cut off the rook's defense of the c4 pawn, and basically give my own bishop an outpost, right? If the opponent has an outpost, I should probably try and have one too. I think I can just take on c4. This should be an issue, because their king is also weak. They are opening up my kingside, but their king is weak as well. So it's pretty much a matter of who can justify that the enemy king is more weak. So grabbing the open file would be a pretty sound decision for the opponent. If they don't, I'll probably grab it myself. We get rook to c8. I can't grab it quite yet because of knight takes. So, ugly a move as it is, king to d2 I think is probably our best shot. We're down to 26 seconds, which is not great, but I think our gameplay has become a little bit easier. All right, we're gonna go here. Might need to focus up here for a moment. Gain back a little bit of time, and hopefully string together something of an attack. Queen goes back. I think I'm fine to slide over. Or is this a concern? Okay, the rook to b8 is what we're met with anyways. Go ahead and double up, pre-move the recapture, which they do go for. We have rook to b8 now, looking to win the queen, which would be nice, but the opponent probably won't allow it. Oh, they do! Yeah, a3 is aggressive, but it's also kind of free. I think that might have been a trap to try to open up the c3 weakness. Okay, this is definitely winning. Let me just not blunder anything silly. Nice, so we do get the resignation to win game number 1. I'm going to hit play again, so hopefully we get paired quickly. This is not the most popular variant in the world. So we have sent out another challenge. We have 1 victory under our belt. Let's go to move on to game number 2. All right, game number 2, we get an even higher rated opponent, this time 2000, which means opportunity for rating is in abundance. But opportunity to get my butt kicked is also in abundance, so we'll see which way this sways. We get pawn to e6, so far perfectly symmetrical, which is a very amusing way to play this. Oh, okay, well, e4 doesn't work because of en passant. I don't know why I always get caught off guard by those sorts of moves. I forget that en passant is applicable to any move where the pawn can move twice in a row straight ahead. I decided to play bishop g3, knight c5 was a possibility, but I like this idea, and I love that knight to g5 is possible, so if the opponent castles, that would be a miracle. Okay, they play queen to c7, they clearly intend to castle queenside, in which case I will clearly intend to cause trouble on the queen side. Okay, pawn to e4 seems to allow en passant. They trade off in the center, which is probably a fair approach. We'll go ahead and challenge the queen. I don't want to be the first one to commit my king to either side of the board. So I'm going to play pawn to b4. Castling is still an issue because pawn to g5 basically threatens mate or / wins the knight. Well, knight to e4 is a possibility now that I look at it. Pawn to g5 looked good a second ago. If knight to e4, I don't know that I can make anything of that. I still think it's worth the attacking move, but knight to e4 does admittedly stunt the idea. Right, we do get knight to e4. Is knight to d2 too desperate? I think it is, because knight just takes. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and castle queenside. Obviously, the knight can't take because there's mate, but that's not to say that this isn't a weakness and that this is not going to be a problem very soon. We do get pawn to a5. I'm going to advance my pawn. Check is a little bit uncomfortable, but I don't think the opponent can win with that alone. Although the more I look at it, the worse it looks, to be honest. Yeah, they do play check. I'll move the king out of the way. Yeah, I'm in way over my head with this queenside castle. It looked flashy and cool because the knight couldn't actually take, but it was not sound after those 2 pawn pushes. So pretty much we're going to see if we can scrounge up some sort of trappy victory here, but it's looking kind of unlikely. Okay, pawn takes is a really interesting way to go about this. I can't take because of knight takes c3. I could take here. There's still knight takes c3. I move the king out of the way. The rook lines up. There's still mating ideas though. I don't know. I'm going to take first back with the pawn. Oh, and g6 here is actually super interesting as well. Well, we'll see what the opponent plays, but g6 is a very amusing idea. Okay, they do take king to c2. There is mate in 1. Ooh, can I take? Now, hold on a second. Okay, obviously that's probably what they want. They're going to play check, which means I have to move my king to d4, which looks terrible. Queen to b2 is check. Wow, that's a very good find. Very, very good find. Should I take? Rook comes down, skewers the queen, so I guess I have to move back. Knight to e2 check forces me to sacrifice the queen, and unfortunately this is probably as good as done. I don't really think I can make anything of this against such a high rated opponent, so we will concede. With that, we lose game number 2. We still have 1 victory under our belt, now 1 of 2. Let's go to move on to game number 3. All right, game number 3, another 1800 rated player. I'm surprised to see so many people are online. That is a wonderful thing. I'm honestly very happy to see the bishop get fianchettoed because h4, h5 just looks beautiful. If not h4, h6 right away. Bishop to e2 is the traditional way to play this because you're looking out for d6, e5, e4 with the forking idea. Ooh, knight to h5 looks really aggressive. I don't know. It might be justified because of the double pawn move idea, but looks a little bit suspicious. We do get knight to f6. Let's continue with pawn to c3. Oh, and they've gotten me with the double move idea. Luckily, I have bishop to e5 at the moment, which just barely escapes. G5 is now also weak, and I think they've now overextended, but in all fairness, had they played d6, I probably would have played knight to d2 and fallen for this anyways. So I've got to keep an eye out for that. Bishop takes back. Pretty sure I have to play h3 first, because if I play g3 now, h3 closes up the position. So h3 first, and then you're looking for g3, and you just want to open up some lines against the enemy king. Pawn does take. We'll go ahead and take back. Pawn to e5 makes sense. Trying to open up the center, but of course I'm going to now try and close the center because I have no interest in any funny business down the middle of the board when my king is still there. I'm going to take a moment to develop my pieces as well. It would be really nice to just get everybody out of the way and castled before I launch a full-blown attack. In fact, I'm going to take here first. Play queen to c2. That's how confident I am that castling out of the way is pretty spectacular for me here. Yeah, I can castle, take back with the knight. I'd be looking at the bishop. I'd be looking at the queen. This is not a possible move because I have 2 pieces defending and we get rook to b8 instead. Okay, pawn to h5 here is kind of funny looking, to be honest. I don't know if it's better. Let's keep it simple for the time being. Just go bishop to d3 with the simple threat of taking and then taking on g6. If the opponent tries to take, we take. There's the discovered attack. There's the knight looking at the bishop. Ooh, pawn to d4. I'm pretty sure I can just take, and now e5 should be troublesome, shouldn't it? e5. I guess the opponent could just take, actually. I take, they take. There is check, but I don't know what follows. Maybe it's not troublesome at all. Let's go h5 first. No, h5 allows knight to e5. h4, g4. Yeah, I think h5 is the best way to go. There's like rook to f1 ideas and knight to f3 ideas and whatnot. We'll go ahead and take. It looks like a free pawn, but then e5 is incoming. The rook to g1, giving check. I don't think the opponent can hold down such an open kingside position. Right, we do get bishop to g4. Pretty sure I can just target the bishop right away. I mean, my knight defends my other knight, so that's totally fine. The bishop does slide back. And why is e5 here not completely devastating? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. e5, I'm pretty sure is just winning. I don't even think it's worth calculating. There's just so much pressure against the opponent's position. There has to be something here. Maybe even e6. Maybe just sacrificing right away. Takes, check, takes, check. King slides over, rook to g1. How do you stop that mate? It really doesn't seem possible, does it? I don't know. It looks really good. I'm just going to play e6 because it's a little bit cleaner. I mean, they're going to play maybe f5. I'm just going to take. It's probably the most boring way to play this to win this. The sacrifice looked a lot cooler, but I already know what happens when I try to play moves that look a lot cooler and then actually aren't. Let's go ahead and take, and then we're winning the knight. Or rather, yeah, we're winning a piece here on g6. Ooh, pawn to c4 is admittedly very aggressive. Ooh, interesting. If I take d3, but I can take back with the bishop with check. Yeah, discover check against the king. That's the problem. Once your king is under such terrible attack, that's why I resigned the last game. Once your king is under attack and the opponent clearly has some sort of tactical ability, it's pretty much over no matter what you play. Right, we'll take back. We're giving check via the discovered attack by the rook. The king does take. We'll play check again. I'm looking to trade off these pieces. In fact, deliver mate on g6. The king moves out of the way. Opponent hanging on for dear life here. I'm just going to take the free bishop. There's no need for me to overcomplicate this. There's definitely winning ideas, but I might as well grab my free material that I've earned. We'll play check. This is the next threat by the opponent. Check again. There should just be a sequence of checks that eventually results in mate. Yeah, king to b7 now even cuts off the rook. The question is, how exactly do you win this? We want to be precise. Oh, we're down to 28 seconds. Hold on. Knight to e5 seems pretty sound, threatening mate right away. We get rook to c8, which allows me to take, and move the knight back. And we've officially entered a winning endgame. So I was kind of expecting to grab mate there, but we do get the resignation and win our second game. So we have 2 victories under our belt of the 3 games that we've played. We need 1 more victory to call it a trio. Let's go to move on to game number 3. All right, game number 4, I did have to compromise on the rating because I was quite literally sitting here for the better part of an hour waiting to get paired again, but it seems there's nobody online. So we will be playing this one against a 1550 rated opponent. We get a pretty symmetrical start to the position, minus the fact that their bishop is still inside the pawn structure. Why can I not draw arrows? That seems kind of fundamental. I need to refresh the page. We get pawn to h6. Oh, and we've got arrows again. Sweet. All right, so they're setting up the same trap. g5 looking for h4. We do still have bishop to e5, so I'm going to allow them to overextend their pawn structure. Should they please. Okay, we get e4, which does allow for en passant. We're now threatening the knight, and we are up a pawn. We get knight back to d7. Knight to d2 should be fine. Sort of developing. Oh, g5 now. g5, h4 would have been quite annoying there, so we're going to play h3. Give the bishop somewhere to move back into. We get queen to e7, trying to regain that pawn on e5, and I don't think there's anything I can do about that, so I'm probably just going to give it up to the opponent and take these extra tempo to complete my development. We'll go ahead and take and offer a knight trade. We want to start working towards opening up the center, considering that the opponent is not castled and also behind in development. We get bishop to e6. We'll play e4, trying to open up the center. Takes, we'll go ahead and take back, threatening the b7 pawn, probably cut off by c6, but we'll put the rook on the open file. Bishop d6 is now a possibility, but the queen moves out of the way. We've not done a great job of capitalizing on the king being in the middle of the board, and I'm not sure how else we're supposed to go about this. Let's go and play rook to e1. Does that work? Because the idea is to sacrifice, take back, and then we have this fork against the king and the rook. And I think that should actually work, so I think we can sacrifice right away. Bishop takes c6. We have check on c6 then with the queen. and we do get the resignation by the opponent. With that, we do win all 3 games. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know down below what other variants I should play. I am looking to play some of the more complicated variants that I've never touched on in the Can I Beat, Can I Master, or Can I Survive series. So let me know if you have any recommendations, and I will see you guys in the next one.